Alright team, welcome to this video, and in this video we are going to talk about copying versus moving from one object to another, right? And before we dive into that, it's very important to understand what a copy constructor is, what a move constructor is, and what a copy assignment operator is, and what a move assignment operator is, right? So to kickstart this video, I have defined a very simple class here, right? If you look, this class is called person, and this person class has two members, right? It has a string raw pointer and it has an age, which is an int. So you can construct this person object by passing it a name and an age in the constructor, and you will see that it simply stores the age. We see out uh, we print something to the console here, constructor called for person with name, and we make the raw string pointer using the new operator. So basically the name of this person lies on the heap, right? In the destructor, we again see out something to the output. Destructor called for person with name. I think this should be m underscore name because we want to use the member, and we delete the raw string pointer for name. We also have a copy constructor defined here. So if you don't know what a copy constructor is, it's basically you have a person object already created and you want to create another person object by simply copying the data of the first person object, right? So in this case, you have this is the signature is pretty simple, right? It basically looks like a constructor, but it takes in another person object as a const reference. So basically you can't modify the other object, you're simply copying data from other to this object, and this meaning the class or the object that's called the copy constructor, right? So we we add a cout here, hey, copy constructor called, and we simply create a new string on heap using the other person's name, and we for age we simply use the other person's age, right? So copy constructor is pretty straightforward. Now move constructor is a bit tricky because you have to pass in another person object as an R value reference, and moving simply means the other object is basically used and then thrown away, right? And by thrown away I mean it's in a state that is valid but unspecified. So what I mean by this is you're basically using the other object to get its name, so you're making a copy of the raw pointer here. Sorry, you're moving the raw pointer here in this raw pointer, you're moving the age, and then the other's name and age become valid but unspecified. So the object basically is discarded. The other object that you're moving from is discarded, right? And that's the move constructor. And copy assignment is very similar to copy constructor. You're basically doing the same thing, right? You're copying from the other person to this person. So both name and age get copied here, right? And similarly for move assignment operator, we added a nice cout here saying, hey, move assignment operator called. We use the other object. So for move assignment operator, we simply added a cout to say that, hey, the move assignment operator is called. We move the name and the age from the other object into this object. So that's the object that's calling the move assignment operator. And we basically make the other object in a state that's valid but unspecified. So just for the name, you make it equal to null pointer and the age is 0, right? So next what we can do is we can start creating some objects here, right, and see what's really happening. So let me create a object, person object, and let's say we call it p1 and let's say we give it a name dev and age 31, right? So before even we execute this code, it should be you should be able to tell what's going to happen, right? And I can predict that, hey, we are constructing this object, so I should at least see the constructor getting called, right? And then when once the main finishes, P1 is going to get destroyed, right? So we should get destructor getting, we should see the destructor getting called, right? So let's run this. Constructor called for a person with name dev, destructor called for a person with name. Oh, I need to probably dereference this to get the name, right? So constructor called for person with name dev, destructor called for person with name dev, right? So nothing fancy. This is expected. Now let's say I want to create another person object p2, but instead of giving it specific arguments for the constructor, I want to copy p1's data into p2, right? So let me simply assign p1 to p2, right? Before we execute this, can you guess what's going to be invoked here, right? We are copying the data from p1 to p2, right? I'm going to say we are going to call the copy constructor, right? Let's see. So constructor called for person with name dev, copy constructor called for p2, right? Destructor called for person with name dev, destructor called for person with name dev, right? So p1 and p2 get destroyed and we see the destructor calls as well. What basically happened here is this equal to here on line 65 invoked the copy constructor on the person class, right? And because we had explicitly defined it, it created a new string for p2, right? This dot m name equal to new string, and we just used the other object's name for the string args, and we created and we populated the age using the other object's age, which is p1 here, right? So nothing fancy. Now instead of copying, if you want to move p1's data into p2, we use something called a standard move, right? So simply wrapping your moved from object with standard move, instead of calling the copy constructor, you will call the move constructor, right? And as we know, in the move constructor, instead of making copies, you're going to move data from the other object to this object. So in this case, you're moving data from p1 to p2, right? Let's run this. All right, so now here is an interesting thing, right? Something failed. I can tell you what failed by looking at the destructor. Because we have moved the resources or the internal data of p1 into p2, the move constructor has then made p1's string pointer, which is the name pointer, equal to null pointer, and we are trying to dereference that here in the destructor. So obviously this is going to be a null pointer for p1, and you saw something fail here. So if I simply remove this or even add a check around it, but let's remove this and run this again, you should see no errors, right? So let's run this. There you go. Destructor called, destructor called. So that's how you use the move constructor on your on your object, right? Now the assignment, right? Let's talk about assignment operators, both copy and move assignment operators, right? This is where this stuff is interesting. So in case of assignment operators, you need to work with two L values. L values meaning, let's say you have another object here, P2, and let's give it a name, nin, and let's say nin is 27, right? So if we run this, we should see two constructor calls and two destructor calls, right? Plain and simple. Constructor called for dev, constructor called for nin, destructor called for dev, destructor called for nin. Now, if I want to move, or sorry, copy P2's data into P1, this will invoke, this line here on 67 will invoke the copy assignment operator, right? And let's see that in action. So copy assignment operator called, right? And when that gets called, you are now creating, just so that we can see the state of the objects, let's add a cout here, right? Sorry, not a cout, let's add a function here. Let's call it print, and let's print out the name and the age of the person, right? So let's do name, let's add a space, and let's print out the age, right? So now if I call p1 dot print and p2 dot print, we should see some information on the console. So both p1 and p2 are now have the same content, right? Same data in it. So this is because of the assignment operator here that we have invoked on copy assignment operator we have invoked on line 72, right? Now instead of copying, if we wrap this with standard move, we are going to then move P2's data into P1, right? And then calling P2 is going to fail because we'll then try to dereference a pointer which is already become null, right? So let's see that in action. There you go, right? So move assignment operator called. The move assignment operator will move the data from the other object, so in this case P2 into P1, and then P2 becomes P2's raw pointer becomes null, and then age becomes 0, right? So that's why you see a failed thing here, because you're trying to then dereference a pointer that's become null, right? The object P2 is basically now in a valid but unspecified state, right? That's the magic of moving. In moving, you're avoiding expensive copies of data, and there might be use cases where you might use this, right? You want to basically just move the data from one object to another, and then the object that you're moving from, that is the source object, you don't want to keep track of it anymore, so you basically put it in a state that's valid but unspecified, right? So guys, hopefully you learned something from this video. My main goal for this video was to get you started on copy constructors, move constructors, and copy assignment operators and move assignment operators, and how you can implement them on your classes, right? This code can obviously be made much more better. For example, in case of moving stuff, we want to make sure that you're not moving from the same object, right? So you can add some checks, if checks here, to make sure that your this is not equal to the other object, right? But this is like a basic boilerplate code, and the signatures will always remain the same, right? Your object names will change, but this is how a copy constructor will look like, right? This is how a move constructor will look like. This is how a copy assignment operator will look like, and this is how a move assignment operator will look like, right? So hopefully guys you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit the like button, right? Show me some love. Show me some love so that I can make more videos and I can entertain you guys on the C++ world, right? Thank you very much. I will see you next time.